Welcome to the Eagles Checkdown right here on the Eagles Pinpool Podcast Network. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, every single morning bringing you news, notes, and opinions in under 10 minutes on your favorite football team, the Philadelphia Eagles. And it is Wednesday, October 9th. We are into week 6 here, getting set to face the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. Uh, Breaking news on Tuesday: Devin White, linebacker of the Philadelphia Eagles, was waived. Turns out after a few minutes, it came out that there was an agreement, a settlement made so that he could be cut and hopefully latch onto a team of his choice before the trade deadline, which would have then forced him to have to go through waivers, etc. But it brings to question just one of the big mistakes that Howie Roseman made this offseason in bringing in Devin White to play linebacker. Now, I, for one, was very hyped for the Devin White signing. I thought he could regain some of his former All-Pro glory, being that he was only 26 years old. All the hype coming out of training camp was that he was performing well. Unfortunately, he could not get onto the field for this team. He could not beat out Nakobe Dean. He refused to play special teams. He did not dress once the first 4 weeks of the season. And what this cut, this waiving, whatever you want to call it, what this whole entire situation with Devin White shows is the disconnect between Howie Roseman and his coaching staff and what they want and need. Obviously, Devin White was not someone that fit the Vic Fangio mold. He was not somebody that would be that on Vic Fangio's radar as a player. On top of all that, Devin White obviously showed, some immaturity against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 4. When he was out there tweeting, retweeting, commenting, making jokes, doing whatever he was doing, poorly optics wise, to like and comment on the Buccaneers, basically cheering them on. It was a move that had to happen at some point. If he wasn't going to play special teams with Sidney Brown, Ananias Smith's practice windows open this week, there were going to meet eventually a one or two. There's James Bradbury out there, 3, possibly 3 roster spots found. So between the optics of his social media game, besides the fact that he refused to play special teams, besides the fact that he couldn't even get dressed for a game, obviously Devin White was going to be one of the 3 players that are going to need to be cut. We'll see what happens going forward when these guys and these roster spots are needed elsewhere. But it is what it is, and Devin White is officially gone from the Philadelphia Eagles. It does lead to question the depth at the linebacker position. And the reason why I kept feeling the need to keep Devin White here is Nakobe Dean has an injury history. He's played good, not great, not bad so far, but he does have an injury history. He hasn't played a full season yet. So what if he goes down? Now you are left with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Aaron Burke as your 2 backup inside linebackers, and that's it. So there is some question there going forward, but we'll see what they have. They obviously have some guys on the practice squad as well that if something happened to Kobe Dean that they could call up in a pinch. I'll just leave one little joke on the Devin White situation, then we will move on here. Whose tenure with the Philadelphia Eagles was more entertaining, Devin White or Frank Gore? Who had a more successful Eagles tenure, Devin White or Frank Gore? Leave me a comment on social media at Bearded Knowledge on that one. Other breaking NFL news that I think can relate to the Eagles a little bit is Robert Saleh was fired by the New York Jets. And I want to ask you, should the Eagles consider bringing in Robert Saleh in some kind of defensive consulting capacity? To me, it just sounds like Aaron Rodgers, Mr. The Crybaby, won his little battle. Robert Saleh got his way. Obviously, there was a little disconnect there, which makes me think about Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts' relationship, and if it's as bad as we think it is, because if it is, maybe Jalen Hurts would have gotten Nick Sirianni fired. Anyway, that's not what I want to talk about today. But Robert Saleh was fired. So first and foremost, that 2021 head coaching group, there are 7 coaches hired before the 21 season. Obviously, Nick Sirianni, Robert Saleh's fired already. Brandon Staley lost his job already. Urban Meyer, I don't even think he made it a year. Arthur Smith was recently fired. David Culley did not make it very long. Obviously, Nick Sirianni and Dan Campbell are the only 2 of the 7 remaining from that coaching circle. And honestly, in 2021, I bet you 9 out of 10 football fans would have predicted Nick Sirianni and Dan Campbell as the 2 that would not have made it very long. But here they are, still surviving, still coaching on their teams. Now, I ask you, should Robert Saleh be brought in here? for as bad as the Jets seemed offensively, their defense the last 2 years was still pretty solid. Offensively, stuck with Aaron Rodgers for only 6 games, Zach Wilson, and all the other host of Tim Boyles that started at quarterback for him. His defenses were still pretty solid, pretty good. He also has a connection on figuring out how to get Bryce Huff, the most out of that investment financially. He was also a great defensive coordinator with the San Francisco 49ers. And if this Vic Fangio style and system doesn't work out, having him in the building already as a defensive consultant assistant might give you a leg up of bringing him on as the defensive coordinator in the future. If, we've brought in these consultants before, offensively and defensive speaking. It's not something that the Eagles haven't done. And I think it would, be smart of Howie Roseman and the Eagles to, at a very least, make a phone call to Robert Saleh. I'm sure Robert Saleh needs a break, needs a few days to process how the rumors coming out of ESPN were that he was just escorted out by security, wasn't allowed to speak to the team or anything like that. So, there's something there. But Vic Fangio should be under more criticism right now. But the optics of the players on social media are kind of blinding us to what Vic Fangio really isn't doing. And it's still sitting in my craw. It's still, kicking me in the gut that Vic Fangio has gotten away with basically saying after the Week 4 game that he tried to make adjustments, but the message didn't get down to the sideline quick enough. Like, normal weeks, normal times, Vic Fangio would have gotten crushed, but Darius Slay went and had to go run his mouth and kind of blinded us to all that. So, to me, Howie Roseman absolutely needs to make a phone call. Howie Roseman absolutely should at least think about it. Talk to Nick Sirianni, talk to Jeffrey Lurie. Hell, even talk to Vic Fangio if he needs a little bit more help in getting these guys and the communication that is obviously lacking going. I kind of feel like Robert Saleh got done dirty with the New York Jets there. Joe Douglas does a terrible job running that organization. It's just been a disaster up there with the New York Jets, and Aaron Rodgers is partially to blame as well. And we knew that wasn't going to end pretty. I really had Doug Peterson as my first coach fired, not Robert Saleh, not the 2-3 Jets. But anyway, I think the Eagles should at least take a look at talking to Robert Saleh for some form of consultant of some kind. Guys, you're listening to the Eagles Checkdown right here on the Eagles Pinball Podcast Network. Make sure you subscribe and follow and whatever it is you do on all those podcast platforms. And make sure you tune in Monday through Friday to the all-new STT Sports Network, setting the trend for what sports talk should be, and the flagship show Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9:30, Trending in the AM, the only morning show in Philadelphia where your opinions actually matter. It's linked below. You can find me, Phil Stifle, on all social media platforms at Bearded Knowledge, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. That's how you find me, guys. Everybody have a great Wednesday. We'll be back Thursday and start breaking down this Eagles-Browns Week 6 matchup. Everybody have a great day. Go Birds, and bubbles up to you.